Hello, my gorgeous psychic sister. How are you this fine day?
Hello, my beautiful partner in true crime. I'm great. Weather's been beautiful. No complaints.
Yes.
Like, not too hot, a little breezy. I'm here for it.
The weather is perfect and wonderful. And you guys, if you don't know, we are going to New Orleans. We're doing our first official live show in New Orleans in October 4th. And tickets are available. You should totally pick that up so that you can go to another place that has, especially by October, it'll be definitely beautiful weather compared to what is probably going on here.
So much the summer.
Probably not now, but you should definitely come out and check us out at the Always Lounge in New Orleans on October 4th, Saturday, October 4th. And if you are into a little bit more intimate, spooky situation like we are, we're also hosting a private ghost vampire true crime tour the night before on October 3rd. And you can get all of that information and all those tickets on our website, anotherfuckinghorrorpodcast.com. And you could also get some sexy ass merch to wear to our show or join our Patreon. And you should go to the show because we're fucking award nominated, guys.
God
It's real
damn it.
shit.
Yes.
We're amazing.
We're not fucking around anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, come check that shit out. Just wanted to say that at the tippy top before we get into all of the fucked up craziness.
I love it. I actually got our first batch of merch. And it's so cute.
It's so cute, girl.
I'm living for this crap.
I bet you are.
It's adorable. Turned out great. I'm like,
it
so
is
happy.
so
I'm
cute.
So proud of myself. I like.
You crushed it. It's really, really cute.
Thank you. I know. I feel like I'm like showing my mom like a picture I drew. Like, Tony's gonna put it on the fridge for me.
Absolutely. Always. Your stuff's amazing. Always.
Thank you.
Yeah, get yourself some fucking merch. It's so cute.
Support my side hustle as a graphic designer. Thank you.
You're crushing, girl. I don't know how to do any of that, obviously.
Thank you. Some more exciting news. Thanks to Johnny's help, we are now on YouTube.
Holy fuck!
We're putting our episodes up. He said he's got about 6 episodes up.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I decided to mix it up. We're working backwards because I want to get the word out. I want people to come to the weekend.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so exciting. Thank you, Johnny. Fuck.
He's so talented.
I know. It's the two of you.
We make a good team.
If you guys decided to procreate, your childs would take over the world.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. That's so flattering.
And also genetically gifted.
I don't know that we will, but
I know.
We'd have a good one though.
But I think sometimes that's kind of how those matchings happen. That it's like you kind of can't, because then the world would explode. Because they'd be like, what are we supposed to do with this perfect being? We don't know.
Oh my gosh. Oh, stop.
Cheekbones for days.
Piercing
eyes for days.
Blue eyes. Yep.
Talent for days. The world couldn't handle it. The universe would just implode. They'd be like, you know what? It's been a good run. Can't do this.
Nailed it, guys. No notes. I'm like blushing. Thank you. You're so sweet. Either that or we'd have some like crazy cult leader as a kid.
I mean, could be both.
I could see it happening. Any fun, exciting news for your week besides that?
I didn't do that this week, but I may have found, I don't want to say an alternative, because Alamo lives in my heart forever and always and is the ultimate.
What?
But a good addition to.
Okay.
Have you heard of the Rooftop Cinema?
I feel like someone mentioned this to me.
Amy? It's wonderful.
Is this in Williamsburg? I might be thinking of something else.
No, I mean, maybe they have, like, I know that there are places that they do movies on rooftops, but there's like a trademark brand, Rooftop Cinema is the name of the company. And they have them like, I think in like Miami, LA, Texas, somewhere in Texas. They have a few across the country. And they do mostly like older movies. Like it's not, you're not seeing like a new Marvel movie or anything. Same. So a few weeks ago, they were offering Practical Magic. And I was like, yes.
Love
please,
that movie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
When we were working on a Cute and Creepy Weekend last year, for those who don't know, it was a fucking nightmare.
The planning, it went great.
No.
It was a blast.
Correct. Thank you for the clarification.
The logistics before that
were a nightmare because we had it all planned. And then a month before we had to replan the entire thing because the castle that we booked decided to close and not tell us and
Yeah.
waited to the last minute. And it's October in Sleepy Hollow, so nothing is fucking available. It was a nightmare. So those who know me, I was like not doing great during all of that. And I would sob to the man I was seeing at the time and be like, all I want to do is watch Practical Magic without my pants on in my apartment. And I can't do that because I don't have the time.
You can make the time. You always have time for pantsless Practical Magic. Thank you.
Girl, I did not have time during that stretch of the year.
Understandable.
So they were offering Practical Magic, and I was like, yes, absolutely. I literally put in almost like a PTO day at one of my jobs to be like, I am not working this bullshit show. I'm going to go fucking see Practical Magic. And Practical Magic on a rooftop was enough of a draw for me. I was like, fantastic. I love that. Wonderful. No notes. No, Amy, that wasn't it. Because they also offered, if you got there an hour before, because the doors are an hour before, they offered free tarot readings.
Stop.
They offered a free, like, make your own manifestation kit station. There was another, like, ritual thing, and it was, like, all included in the price.
That sounds like so much fun.
It was offered by My Little Magic Shop.
Adorable.
It was wonderful. And apparently they do that with all their movies, that they kind of, like, cater it to,
like,
whatever. Theme? Yeah, there's a theme situation.
That's so smart. That's so brilliant.
Mm-hmm. So it's at the rooftop of a hotel. It's like an Embassy Suites or something like that, which, whatever. I do not, besmirch an Embassy Suites. Go off. Love it. And they have snacks. They don't have like they have a full bar, but not like a full menu. But I had hot dogs, and girl, I fucking love a hot dog. And best part is it's headphones.
Stop it.
So if some asshole is talking.
That's my dream.
And not only that, and then if you're like me and you need to pee like crazy, you're still listening to the fucking movie, girl.
Okay, this just needs to be
it's wonderful.
A worldwide change.
Situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's outside, and you sit in these like little wicker chairs. It's super cute. And you can like bring like a blanket, and it's like adorable.
All right. I love this. I'm getting on this.
Yeah. And they have like, they show the birdcage, which obviously we both love.
Yeah, I saw that at Alamo.
Yeah. But today you got engaged. Yes.
Yeah, you got engaged, yeah.
Mean Girls, it's wonderful. So it's called Rooftop Cinema. Love it. Highly, highly, highly recommend. I've not had as great of a movie going experience anywhere other than Alamo, other than this place. It was so cute, so fun. Loved it. No notes.
All right, I got to check out the schedule.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Also, I did recently watch Late Night with the Devil, and I really enjoyed it.
I've not heard of that. What is that?
Came out a couple years ago, and it, on one of my flights back from wherever the fuck I've been, Delta was like, hey, girl, this is one of your offerings. And it stars David Datsmalkian. I'm certain I pronounced that wrong. I'm so sorry. He's probably, at least how I know him best, is he plays the really schizophrenic guy who's picked up in The Dark Knight.
Yes.
And he has like a very distinctive face. Like it's very like, he's kind of creepy. So it's a found footage movie about this guy who, in 1977, the Monday night of Sweeps Week, which is Halloween, happens to be Halloween, which apparently that's true, is this late night talk show host who is trying to go up against Carson. So he decides to do like an extra spooky episode.
Okay.
And he brings on this woman, this parapsychologist, who wrote a book called Conversations with the Devil. And she claims that a demon has possessed this girl. And they're like bringing out the girl and her to like maybe have the devil show up in addition to a bunch of other shit. And I really enjoyed it. The ending goes like off the rails, but not necessarily in a bad way.
I'm not opposed to that. I love an off the rails ending.
Yeah. And it's like a great way to kind of get into the spooky season. And it's, 70s, 1970s. So it's all that whole aesthetic, which I fucking love.
Love it.
Yeah. And it was also like one of the Shudder films.
Oh, okay.
It was great. I really enjoyed it.
I've checked that out.
You can find it also on, I watched it on Hulu. because I fell
Okay.
asleep on the plane. So I watched it on the plane, and then
Too
I was
real.
like, I don't know how this ends. So I finished watching it yesterday, like a week later.
I love it. Okay, I wasn't even going to ask because I was like, she watched it on the plane. She doesn't fucking know. But you do, because you're
Yes.
amazingly well-researched in everything.
Thank you. I try. But other than that, just working like a fiend.
Girl,
You know, I'm certain you know nothing of that, Amy, at all.
I have 5 shows this week, so
Yay. I'm on that train.
You know. And then I'm literally flying out the next morning to go see my mom in Chicago.
Yay.
I'm so excited.
Diana, we love you. We miss you.
I know. I love her so much. I miss her.
What about you? That's it? You're gonna...
Yeah. Really, all I've been doing is reading the Dungeon Crawler Carl series by Matt Dinniman, which has kind of blown up lately. They like optioned it to Seth MacFarlane's production company, so they're like gonna make, I believe, a show out of it. But it's wonderful if you like video games or RPG games, like Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. It's fascinating. It's very funny. The premise is there's like an alien invasion that collapses
obviously. There you go.
Sold. Boom. Immediately. Collapses every building in the world immediately, and these staircases open up, and you have the option to either just like try to survive on the world, or you can go into these staircases and fight in the Dungeon Crawler world, which is like an alien TV show.
So it's almost like Squid Game, but like
Squid Games or like Hunger Games kind of.
All of that sounds bad.
Oh, it's awful what happens to them. I'm in the 3rd book now. It got me so good. I was like reading a little bit at work because I was like, oh, it's like kind of slow in this part. Like they're kind of just like chilling, doing some stuff. And then I got so mind fucked that I was just like, oh my God, I was not prepared. I came out of nowhere. It's so good. It follows this like former Coast Guard named Carl, and he's stuck with his girlfriend's Persian cat, who then, when she gets in the dungeon, eats something that she can talk. And her name's Princess Donut, and she's amazing. It's so good, dude. It's so funny. I'm really enjoying it.
I had no idea any word that was going to come out of your mouth after the word cat, and there's no way I could have predicted that it would have been more incredible than the previous word.
Yes.
It just kept getting better.
She's Princess Donut, the Queen Anne chunk. No notes.
Who can talk. Incredible. No notes.
She's great. She's very sassy. She's very funny.
I love it.
Anyway, highly recommend the books. I think there's 7. Don't quote me on that.
There are several.
There are several.
There you go.
There are more than 3, which is the one I'm on right now. My mom's read all of them, so I'm excited to go have a little
Talk to
Dungeon Crawler Carl gush sesh. It'll be fun.
I love that. That's wonderful.
Yeah. But that's it. That's the big excitement. Do you want to get into some paranormal story?
I cannot wait, Amy. I'm so excited.
Okay, good. So my story today is about a topic that I honestly never thought I'd cover, because I kind of thought it had already been thoroughly debunked. Like it was a straight up hoax, no further questions, Your Honor.
Oh my God, I love this. I love it already. Oh my God. Oh my God.
But then I watched a compilation episode of the Y-Files, which I absolutely love, by the way.
They're so great.
Recommend enough. He's fantastic. AJ Van Peel, like
crushed.
Amazing. And the theme of the compilation was the stories that made me a believer. And there was so much information in the story
that I
hadn't
so many
heard
chills.
before that it actually completely changed my view on the subject. So today, I'm going to tell you about crop circles.
Okay.
Sources. The Y-Files. I watched the compilation, but I also went back and watched the original, which is titled Aliens and Espionage, Wikipedia, BBC News, science.howstuffworks.com, australiangeographic.com.au, skeptic.org.uk, science.nasa.gov, and the LA Times. Now, if you were like me and thought crop circles were all just a big hoax, you've probably heard the story about those 2 old guys in England who admitted to creating hundreds of crop circles using wooden boards attached to rope. And yes, crop circles, even ones with intricate designs, can be man-made. In fact, crop circles have even been used in several promotional campaigns over the years, including one for the 2012 Summer Olympics.
Really?
Yeah. And they did one for like a beer company and stuff. Yeah. I know. I apparently forgot about this. I was like, I was alive during this time. Like, why don't I
Yes.
remember the Olympic circle crop circles? Okay.
I mean, there's also like, there's so much crazy shit that like historically you'd be like, how didn't I know this? And I'd be like, oh, because like Michael Jackson died. Like it'd be like
Yeah.
some other like
So many
really
other things were
crazy thing
happening.
happened that it's like that kind of like dominated the news instead of this other like scandal or whatever the fuck.
Correct. But while you can argue that the majority of crop circles were man made, which I'm not arguing,
Sure.
there are some that seem to defy explanation. And there's some weird things going on with them. Now, the incident that started the modern crop circle phenomenon took place in a town called Tully in Queensland, Australia. On a foggy morning in January 1966, a farmer named George Pedley was riding his tractor when he suddenly heard a, quote, loud, ear-piercing hissing above the noise of the engine, end quote. Assuming one of the tractor's tires had a puncture, George stopped to check. But before he had a chance to step down from the cabin, he saw a flying saucer rise at great speed from near the lagoon before vanishing, quote, in a puff of blue vapor, end quote. George said he was frigid with fright, but cautiously went to investigate. According to him, this unidentified aircraft had left a nest-like mark 9 meters in diameter in the lagoon's floating reeds. And many of the reeds were fused together, presumably by the heat of the engine, and continued to, quote, swirl for some time in a clockwise direction, end quote. Meteorologists suggested that the saucer nest was merely created by a whirlwind. But because there wasn't any evidence to confirm this theory, the Tully Circle made international headlines, and more crop circles started being reported all over the world, but mainly in southern England. Thousands of crop circles were found, and their patterns ranged from very simple to very complex, intricate designs. The circles were usually formed quickly at night, and in many cases, the formation of the circle was associated with a beam of light or an orb of light. Now, while crop circles might seem like a recent phenomenon, an English woodcut from 1666 called The Mowing Devil depicts the devil with a scythe cutting a circular design in a field of oats. According to the story, during the night, the farmer's field was mysteriously mowed, and it was so neatly cut that it couldn't have been done by a mortal man. So, obviously, it must be the work of the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, this is not proof of a crop circle in 1600 England, but it is a ridiculous story that I had to include. There were also several reports of modern crop circles from before Tully. In 1937, a British science journal reported circles appearing in a field of barley and included one of the first photos of a crop circle taken. In 1945, a balloonist working for the Royal Air Force Training School took a photo of one. And in 1952, the Air Force was actually investigating circles found in Kansas. While the crop circles continue to remain a mystery, they were widely thought to be associated with UFOs because of the Tully Circle. Until 1991, when two artists in their 60s, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley, confessed that they had faked over 200 crop circles between 1978 and 1991.
That is so
much work. They're artists.
Yes, thank you. That's the
so
word.
Yeah.
That's the word. I don't have time to do any fucking thing. And I also understand that this is like before, this is the before times where like people could just like work like a part-time at a gas station and pay all their shit and like, you know, whatever.
Also, like if you're retired and you have nothing better to do, like I get it.
That's still a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but we're going to get into them a little more later.
And I couldn't imagine using my efforts to deceive people.
Yeah.
I feel like I could use it to do like literally anything else, like good things to be like, make people happy or whatever.
Yeah.
Make the world maybe a little bit better. Not to be like, I'm going to get one over on you, fucker. Ha ha.
That's fair. Again, we're going to get into it. I was not prepared for the level of the story in any way. Like, I thought it was all bullshit. I never even considered doing the story. And then I was like, I'm kind of obsessed with it now.
Y-Files. They do a great job at that. Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's the Dodleston Messages. I first found
saw
on the Y-Files. Yeah.
I actually think that was in this compilation. I watched two, so maybe it was in the other one, but I think it was in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bauer had been living in Queensland when the Tully Circle appeared and claimed that was the inspiration for his quote unquote pranks, whatever you want to call them.
Mhm.
The two men demonstrated their crop circles for reporters, and the results were, in the words of the Y-Files host, AJ Gentile, quote unquote, janky. Doug and Dave's formations were out of line every time, and the more complicated their design, the more out of line they were. When Doug tried to reproduce one of their circles for a news crew, they accidentally made it twice as big, then apparently just gave up on making it altogether. Their story also changed over time. They said they started making them in 1976, then 1975, then 1978. And granted, they're in their 60s, so maybe their memories aren't as good as they once were. But it seems the two could never agree on the year they started. They also claimed to have made certain circles that later said they didn't, but that they helped the people who did. They said they created the Cheesefoot head circle in 1983, and Doug showed a diagram of it, but the diagram had footpaths in it, and there were none in the original photo. When asked how they created the circles without making tracks in the crops, Doug said they pole vaulted into the field.
What?
Yep. Apparently, two men in their 60s were pole vaulting into fields in the middle of the night, carrying the wooden boards they used to make the circles.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I'm calling bullshit, dude.
Girl.
One bad landing, you break your fucking ankle, and then you're, what, laying in a field all night? No.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to do this how many times? Was this 200 times, you said?
Yes.
Girl, get the fuck out of here.
At night?
And okay, and I'm going to tell you this, like, I'm 40, right? In my, like, by my mid-30s, I was in a situation where, like, I literally pulled my back getting out of a chair, which is embarrassing. Yes. And it was not pole vaulting. And I'm not, like, in the worst shape. Or, you know, I could obviously be in better shape. But, like, no. Get out of here.
Unless you were, like, an Olympic pole vaulter in your younger years, I would maybe be like, oh, okay, sure, you still got it.
Yeah, but even if you were one and then you're 60,
come on,
because then that's also like the damage that you're doing to your body over all of that time.
Yeah,
because we're not actually meant to like withstand all that shit for an extended period of time.
AJ says, quote, now Doug looks pretty fit for an older guy, but he's getting winded walking in a circle.
Girl, get the fuck out of here. Stop.
Yep. Pole vaulting seems a little outside his athletic range, end quote. I agree. Thank you, AJ.
And were they like, hey, pole vault for me right now?
No, I would have said that immediately.
Yeah, I'd be like, okay, bro, let's go.
Let's see. Go.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Stop.
Thank you.
Okay, I am like...
Thank you.
Entertained by like the level of fuckery and like being like, do you think I'm that fucking dumb to believe this nonsense? Get the fuck out of here.
No. Like, I wasn't born yesterday, thank you.
Mm-mm.
It also seems they started adding details to their stories based on information from other people. For example, a couple people investigating a circle told Doug they were looking for a jelly-like substance that was found in a formation. Doug told them it was probably waste ejected by a plane flying overhead, and later claimed that once, while he was making a crop circle, he got hit in the head with a piece of frozen waste from a plane's toilet and had stumbled back to his car with blood dripping down his face.
Not from pole vaulting, though.
No. If anything, you were going to get hurt from, like, that would be it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But here's the thing. Planes don't just eject their waste over land because, one, it's illegal, and two, it would be incredibly dangerous.
Right.
In fact, according to FFA.gov, it's physically impossible for a pilot to dump a tank while in flight. The valve that opens the tank can only be opened while the plane is on the ground. While, admittedly, there have been reports of so-called blue ice leaking mid-flight, and there were 27 in the United States between 1979 and 2003, these incidents typically happen under airport landing paths during the plane's descent. Another story came out about people finding pieces of metal thought to be meteorites at crop formations. And sure enough, soon after, Doug and Dave's crop circles had little bits of iron scattered all around. What are you trying to prove, bro? Like, what's going on?
I just don't understand the desire to deceive people.
Again, put a pin in
I
that.
don't understand this.
Put a pin in that. We're going to get into it. So, yes, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley did create some crop circles. But by the time they came forward in 1991, about 1,500 crop circles had been found in 23 countries. And yes, I'm sure they inspired copycats. The vast majority of crop formations are man-made. But there are also distinct signs that a crop circle is man-made. Many times there's a footpath through the field leading up to the design, unless you pole vault in for some reason.
Okay.
However, many formations intersect the lines made by tractors, which can hide tracks. Man-made crop circles created by flattening the plants with boards leave clear signs of damage to the plants, with cracks and bruises on the stalks. The crushed plants also look messy since they were just mashed to the ground. In quote-unquote genuine crop circles, on the other hand, most of the plants aren't damaged and will even continue to grow horizontally and will return to their vertical position after a few days. The plants are laid down in a way that flows like water. Many times the stalks are even layered or like lightly braided, not like a full braid, but like one over the other.
Mm-hmm.
In a formation found in 2005, the flowers of the plants weren't damaged at all, meaning the stalks had somehow been flattened completely while the flowers at the top remained untouched. It would be impossible for a person using a wooden board to do this. And we know this because they apparently tried. A group of crop circle makers attempted to reproduce this formation. From the air, it looks nearly identical, but from the ground, the man-made version looks completely different. The plants were a mess, and both the flowers and the stalks of the plants had clearly been crudely smashed. In a formation found in 2003, the plants weren't even fully flattened. They were merely bent a few inches from the top, which, again, would be impossible to do using the wooden board technique, or for one person to manage over the course of the few hours in a night. Even with the big team, it would be ridiculously difficult.
Right.
Another sign of a genuine circle can be seen specifically in wheat. As it approaches its harvesting state, the wheat kernels at the top of the plant become heavy and bend over from their weight. They also become stiff and are impossible to straighten. But the wheat laid down in the crop circle is completely straight and can't be bent. And apparently, this is a possible sign the plants have been exposed to radiation. So, in the 1990s, biophysicist William Levengood started analyzing plants taken from crop circles. He discovered that the apical nodes of the wheat stalks taken from the circles were elongated, and in many cases they were ruptured. And the only way this could be replicated was with bursts of microwave radiation. This radiation heats up the water in the nodes, it turns to steam, and it bursts. Since it happens to the plant internally, there's absolutely no way to fake this. Levengood himself said, quote, "There's no way you could hoax that," end quote. People who have claimed to see crop circles forming reported seeing a mist over the pattern immediately after it's formed. And the mist is actually steam coming from the plants after being rapidly heated from microwave radiation. Levengood also found that the seeds taken from the plants inside the crop circles germinate and grow much faster than normal seed. He then experimented by exposing seeds to short, controlled bursts of radiation, and yep, turns out those seeds grew much faster than those that hadn't been exposed to radiation. Another experiment also showed that wheat harvested from inside a crop circle had 50% more protein than those harvested outside the circle, which is evidence that whatever is creating these genuine crop formations is leaving traces of energy in the area. Genuine crop circles also leave what's known as ghost circles, which even after the field is plowed, the formation still comes back year after year.
Which obviously radiation would make sense, no? Like that
Would make sense.
right.
Yes. It's also been found that some crop formations are covered in a dusting of microscopic spheres of magnetized iron, specifically meteorite iron. The spheres are usually found around the perimeter of the formation, and the distribution increases linearly from the epicenter, meaning the concentration is lowest near the center and highest near the perimeter and steadily increases. The distribution is not random. Because the iron particles are magnetized perfect spheres, apparently it means they were melted and formed within a highly energetic magnetic field, according to the Y files. It has also been documented that people standing inside crop formations are affected by electromagnetic radiation. In the video, 3 people show their hands palms up. As they lower them towards the crop circle, their hands become visibly red and splotchy looking.
Holy shit.
I'm assuming from the dilation of the capillaries, and it dissipates the further away their hands are from the ground.
What the fuck?
It's weird. Also, apparently, an experiment was performed where a doctor monitored a woman with an enlarged thyroid as she sat in a crop circle. After 2.5 hours, her thyroid had shrunk by 40%.
Oh my God.
Again, was not prepared for the level.
No.
This is all insane. Many times, cameras, watches, and other electronic devices stop working inside a crop circle. A study done in the early 2000s found that 98% of non-man-made crop formations in southern England were over chalk aquifers, which can be used for generating electricity. Every year, crop formations form near Silbury Hill, which is basically like one giant pile of chalk. Not far from Silbury Hill is Stonehenge, and many crop circles have appeared there too. The most famous is called the Stonehenge Surprise and appeared on July 7th, 1996. It's been described as, quote, one of the most complex and spectacular crop circle designs ever seen, end quote. The design is a Julia set, a type of fractal. In simple terms, a fractal is a mathematical set with a pattern that repeats indefinitely. It's worth noting that Stonehenge has 24-hour security.
Sure does.
But the guards never reported seeing anyone or anything creating the designs.
And even like if it's like, let's say like they snooze for like an hour or something, right? Like,
yeah, or like return the other way.
You can't do all that in an hour, especially in 1996.
Not something that complicated,
No.
that big.
Mm-mm.
No. Bananas. Circles also frequently appear near the Avebury Henge, both of which also happen to be located on a ley line, hypothetical invisible energy pathways running through the Earth, which seem to indicate yet another connection between the crop circles and the energy of the Earth. People were convinced that crop circles were trying to communicate something, and assumed that's why so many formations displayed mathematical concepts, since math is a universal language and would be something we could recognize and understand.
Right.
But there were 3 formations that seemed to be more direct in their communication. All 3 appeared in 2001 near the Chilbolton Radio Telescope in England, which seemed to be noteworthy in and of itself. The first seemed to portray a humanoid face, which could be a case of pareidolia. Like, it's not super clear. You're not like, oh, that's JFK. I recognize that face. Like,
right.
It's, blurry. The second portrayed a stereotypical gray, with its face half in shadow, with a coded message in a circle to the right. When decoded, the message read, quote, beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Much pain, but still time. There is good out there. We oppose deception. Conduit closing. End quote.
What the fuck?
Ominous as fuck. The third was a crop formation that appeared to be a response to the Arecibo message. In case you don't know what that is, that was the message we sent into space in 1974. The Arecibo message was written in binary code and was an image meant to portray basic information about humanity and the Earth. The image was a 23 by 73 rectangle, which were chosen for being prime numbers, and it included the following information: the numbers 1 to 10, the atomic numbers of the elements which make up DNA, the formulas for the chemical compounds that make up the nucleotides of DNA, the estimated number of nucleotides in the human genome with a graphic of the double helix structure of DNA, a stick figure of human being, the human population of Earth, which was about 4 billion at the time, a graphic of the solar system, as well as which of the planets the message was coming from, And finally, a graphic of the Arecibo radio telescope. The crop circle that appeared, which went on to be known as the Arecibo Answer, was in the same format as the one we sent out, except it conveyed different information, presumably regarding the species that had sent it. The atomic code for carbon had been replaced with silicon, their DNA was a triple helix, their solar system was different, and they seemed to occupy more than one planet, and possibly a satellite of some sort. The stick figure had changed shape to indicate a large head and a smaller body, very stereotypical of the Greys.
Mm-hmm.
And the image of the Arecibo telescope had been replaced with a complex image seeming to indicate some kind of space telescope with solar panels. Now, the nearest star that could receive the message was 25,000 light years away, so it would have taken 50,000 years for anyone or anything to receive the message. Even if it was intercepted sooner, the width of the beam carrying this message was less than 1/15 the diameter of the moon. And while this might sound pretty big to you and me, cosmically speaking, it's actually really small. The message was transmitted using radio bursts and lasted only 3 minutes. Add this to the fact that there's actually nothing in the radio burst that makes it clear that the signal should be translated to a visual format, and specifically with a layout of 23 columns and 73 rows of data. Now, I couldn't find anything regarding the state of the plants for these formations, or if there was any indication that they were clearly man-made. It seems most people assumed they were, though, since they seemed a little too on the nose. And why leave a message in a field next to a telescope when it would have been far easier just to broadcast a radio signal to the observatory? So, the simplest solution really is that because we know what the Arecibo message looked like, somebody thought it would be really funny to just make a parody of it and put it in a crop circle to freak everybody the fuck out. Yep. However, no one ever came forward to take credit for the formations. Over the years, crop formations have become more and more complex. The Milk Hill Galaxy Spiral, found in the summer of 2001, was 1,000 feet wide and made up of 409 perfect circles. And because of how far north England is, in the summer, the days are very long. And on the night this particular crop circle was formed, it was only dark for about 4 hours. It would have taken a lot of people to make such an intricate design in that short amount of time. Not to mention, it was raining that night, so if it was man-made, they should have found a bunch of muddy footprints in the field. But, of course, there weren't any. Fractals, geometric shapes, and other expressions of mathematical functions are commonly found in crop formations, as well as the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers. One of the more puzzling crop circle designs was solved by a mathematician who discovered that it was actually a representation of pi to 10 decimal places. The lengths of the arcs in the circle represent each digit, and there's even a decimal point and 3 circles that decrease in size at the end, indicating that the number continues on forever. Somatic patterns have also been discovered in crop formations. Somatic patterns are patterns that are formed when sound waves vibrate a material like water or sand. Different frequencies create different patterns, and these patterns can be predicted and repeated. Then, on July 13th, 2011, 2 separate double spiral formations appeared. One on Windmill Hill near Avebury Henge and one near Stonehenge, a couple miles away. Dr. Jerry Croth thought these formations could represent spiraling neutron stars, which in rare cases collide and form a magnetar, with the most powerful known magnetic fields in the universe, about 1 trillion times more powerful than the Earth's. Their gravity is so strong that it dramatically warps space-time around it, which, in theory, could lead to an Einstein-Rosen bridge, i.e. a wormhole. Now, you might think, it's just 2 spirals next to each other, so that's kind of a stretch to think they were depicting the creation of a magnetar. But in a weird coincidence, or not, depending on what you want to believe, a previously unknown magnetar was discovered the very next day, on July 14th.
Girl.
It's weird.
Yeah. Highly coincidental? Upwards
Highly
of
coincidental?
Mark? Yeah.
Okay.
Noted.
I don't know what to do with that information, but like, again, could be a coincidence. It's literally just like 2 spirals next to each other. pretty simple design, but like the timing seems noteworthy.
It is that thing, like in the Dodalson messages, it's like this specific theorem is going to be solved in your lifetime, and it wasn't a like well-known one. It was like a
You're like, okay,
random,
bro.
obscure one. You're like, okay, and then it was, and you're like, if it's fake, that's a really weird thing to hedge your bet on. You know what I mean?
Yep. Again, noted.
Mm-hmm.
In 2022, another crop circle appeared that was 2 sections of concentric rings connected by a line in the middle with 3 arches connecting the rings above and below. It was suggested that this might actually be a depiction of a wormhole, 2 points in space connected by a line with space-time warping around it. Now, it's possible that all these designs were completely random and had no special meaning, but most people assumed they were trying to communicate something. And theories emerged that maybe they were actually proof of the existence of wormholes, and they were somehow instructions on how to get to and use one. One of the people interested in this theory was electrical engineer Nikola Romansky. One day, he was looking at a very unusual crop formation design that didn't really fit the normal patterns. And on a whim, he decided to put it into his 3D design software and rotate it around the center axis to make a 3D shape. The 3D design looked very much like a piece of machinery. So he started doing the same thing to a bunch of other crop formations. And eventually, he had what appeared to be a collection of blueprints for some kind of machine that was powered by counter-rotating devices. His theory was that it was a vehicle that ran on zero-point energy, could alter gravity, and reach light speed. Basically, everything UFOs are said to be capable of.
Mm-hmm.
His theory was that it was a vehicle that ran on zero-point energy, could alter gravity, and reach light speed. Now, he actually tried to build it. He got some funding and enlisted the help of 3D designers, machinists, electricians, and fabricators. It took over 3 years to build the prototype, but they did it. Unfortunately, it didn't work. They got some plasma to ignite, but that was it. And by that point, they'd run out of money. But there's a chance he was onto something with this. Although the machine turned out to be a bust, the science of the design was actually pretty solid and aligned with what government whistleblowers have described regarding what they discovered from reverse engineering a UFO. Now, at this point, if you mention crop circles to people, generally everyone kind of just rolls their eyes and, like me, thought it was all bullshit. But at one point, crop circles were taken seriously by the media, the government, and the general population. A new type of science emerged called seriology, the study of crop circles. Nick Pope, who worked for the UK Ministry of Defence from 1985 to 2006, said the army started investigating crop circles in 1985. As the formations became more and more complex, the Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, ordered her cabinet to figure out what was going on. And in July of 1990, a year before Doug and Dave came forward, Operation Blackbird was launched.
Great name, by the way.
Right?
Fuck yeah.
It was a 3-week-long surveillance operation funded by the BBC and a Japanese television network, and it involved the continuous operation of more than $1.8 million worth of infrared cameras, night vision, and sound detectors to try to record the creation of the circles. Colin Andrews led the investigation. He was an electrical engineer who first became interested in crop circles in 1983 after seeing a formation near Winchester. The project had the blessing of the British government, and the land under the surveillance was actually owned by the Ministry of Defence, which allowed them to cordon off the area to prevent any would-be hoaxers and prevent anyone from contaminating the crop circles afterward. It was a huge television event. Millions watched internationally, and every day there would be an update on the day's events. On the second day, a crop circle appeared, and Colin Andrews immediately made an announcement that a triangular UFO had been seen over the field and that the circle was genuine. But the formation turned out to be a hoax. The design had clearly been man-made, and an astrology board game had been placed in the center of the circle. Colin Andrews was humiliated, and seriology was immediately relegated to a fringe science. But remember, the army had cordoned off the area and was supposed to be surveilling the project to prevent any would-be hoaxers. Colin Andrews believed that the army was intentionally trying to discredit him and the entire crop circle phenomenon. And it turns out that apparently at the same exact time Operation Blackbird was going on, the Army was running their own secret surveillance operation a few miles away on Silbury Hill.
Mm.
Allegedly, the Army filmed bright orbs flying just to the south of the field during the operation, but the whole thing wasn't disclosed until years later. So it seems like Operation Blackbird was really just a distraction, a setup to shift focus away from the real investigation. Worth noting, it's frequently reported to this day that military helicopters show up when crop circles or glowing orbs appear, and have even been seen chasing the orbs.
Oh.
Yes, which would seem to imply that the military believes crop circles are more than simple hoaxes. But after the failure of Operation Blackbird and Bauer and Chorley's confession the following year, crop circles were all but considered debunked. However, Colin Andrews still believed crop circles were a real phenomenon. Quote, "I have certainly come to believe that there is an intelligence involved in the making of crop circle patterns, and that there has been an element of interaction with that intelligence." End quote. In an interview with author John King, Colin claimed that the military had actually launched a disinformation campaign to debunk crop circles. Phase 1 was Operation Blackbird. He said that the only way hoaxers could have gotten onto that field was if it was an inside job, and that he'd been pressured to make the announcement regarding the UFO being seen and the crop circle being genuine before he'd even seen it. He'd merely reported what was described to him by the Army. As soon as he saw it for himself, he knew it was a hoax, but by that time, it was already too late. Phase 2 was Bauer and Chorley's confessions. Colin doesn't believe the two men were part of the intelligence community, but that they were used by and compensated by members of the intelligence community. They were both paid for their stories, and we know this because apparently they were only paid half up front and they had to sue for the other half.
That is so tacky.
Right?
Pay your shit.
Not cool. Colin said Phase 3 involved a freelance journalist named Jim Schnabel. According to Colin, Schnabel was actually CIA. Although he wasn't an official CIA officer, he appeared to be an asset for them. If you search his name in the CIA database, numerous documents appear with his name, and it seems he's always connected to paranormal cases, like crop circles and remote viewing. Schnabel was conducting interviews with everyone involved with Operation Blackbird and other crop circle researchers, but he was actively disseminating disinformation by misquoting people and was pushing the narrative that crop circles were already debunked. Colin became convinced of Schnabel's CIA involvement when Schnabel read him the details of 5 private phone conversations Colin had while sitting alone in his car after the Operation Blackbird debacle.
What the fuck?
Right? Which, like, if there's nothing going on with the crop circles, then, like, why do you care? Why are you so obsessed with me?
Girl.
It was clear his phone had been bugged, and he was convinced he was still being surveilled. He also said that he was later approached by a man who claimed to be CIA. The man asked Colin to publicly state that the crop circle phenomenon was a hoax, but told him that he could continue to research them all he wanted. The man said if he did what they asked, they would give him a substantial Swiss bank account as well as a device to determine which crop circles were genuine. They would give him a staff and a budget, but if he ever found a genuine crop circle, he would need to report it to the CIA and no one else. But Colin refused the offer, and the man continued to harass and threaten him afterwards, to the point that Colin actually contacted the Ministry of Defense about it, who apparently told him it was out of their jurisdiction, even though he was in England at the time, and that there was nothing they could do. The harassment eventually stopped, but Colin said that he was approached again after he moved to America by someone he believed was also a CIA asset. It was an author and a presenter on the paranormal named Rosemary Guiley, who was introduced to him by a Pentagon analyst. According to him, she went to every extreme to get him to co-author a book with her, but he once again refused, believing she just wanted access to all his data from the past 30 years for the CIA. Another interesting connection between crop circles and the government is in relation to John Lumbergh, an English artist and documentarian who founded the website Circle Makers. He claimed to have been responsible for some of the more complex crop formations over the years. But crop circle researcher Robert Hulls believes that he too was working with the government, and he began to look into him. Hulls said at one point the Circle Makers website had a recruiting page, but when you clicked on the link, it took you to the recruiting page for MI5. Hulls believe the Circle Makers group is actually funded by British intelligence as part of their ongoing disinformation campaign. Although there's no concrete evidence of this, in 2009, researcher Richard D. Hull dug into Lundberg's background and found some interesting information. Lundberg attended the Slade School of Fine Arts, which was located next door to and shared a courtyard with the then secret headquarters of MI5. And it's not unheard of for the intelligence community to recruit students. Plus, Lundberg started making circles right after he graduated, which, again, might just be a huge coincidence. According to Hall, though, in the HTML source for the Circle Makers website, the second keyword listed is MI5. Although that was in 2009, according to the Y files, to this day, the site's keywords contain MI5, CIA, and weirdly, Jim Schnabel, the guy who Colin Andrews believed was a CIA asset. Hull also discovered that the site for the British organization was hosted in Pittsburgh, which seemed odd, and even weirder, the administrative contact for the domain belonged to a colonel in the US Air Force. Circle Makers also posted a statement on their site in 2005 that said they were funded by a retainer from, quote, sources we'd rather not disclose, end quote, which sounds pretty sketchy. Hull also did a land registry check on the apartment where Lundberg was living at the time, but apparently it stated that technically there are no apartments listed on the deed. When he dug further, he discovered that there are actually 4 apartments there, all of which have their rents paid by the local government. While none of this information definitively proves that Lundberg is a government asset spreading disinformation, interesting to note, a couple years after Hall did this research, Lundberg directed a documentary called Mirage Men, which I covered a few weeks ago in episode 180, and is all about the US government's disinformation campaign against Paul Benowitz and the UFO community. So if there were anyone who was going to know about how the government uses disinformation, it seems likely that it'd be this guy.
Yeah.
So, if all crop circles are man-made and it's all just a big hoax, then why is the government so interested in them? And why does it seem like they went to great lengths to spread disinformation regarding them? Again, I feel the need to state that yes, the majority of crop circles are man-made, but some of them bear some unusual characteristics that simply couldn't be replicated by humans, at least not without a ton of effort and special machinery. Some alternate theories that have been proposed for these quote-unquote genuine crop circles include a rare weather event, such as small vortices of swirling winds, i.e. mini tornadoes, downdrafts from small airplanes or helicopters, some sort of natural energy from the earth, such as electromagnetic radiation, and my favorite of all the theories, though I obviously don't believe it, is that they could be due to unusual animal behavior. Because in 2012, crop circles in a Tasmanian opium field turned out to be the result of disoriented wallabies wandering in circles after eating poppies. Some high as fuck wallabies. Yes. However, even if these explanations were plausible and could form a few crop circles with the hallmarks of a genuine circle, there's absolutely no way that they could be responsible for the level of intricacy of some of these formations. So, whether you want to believe that crop circles are created by extraterrestrials and being covered up with the government, they're all just an elaborate hoax, or they're just the product of some high as fuck wallabies, that's up to you. But that is my story on crop circles and how I don't think they're a hoax anymore.
What the fuck?
I was not prepared.
No.
Like, I heard the story about Bowering Crowley and I was just like, yeah, seems right.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about them being exposed to radiation.
Yeah.
Or obviously, I've never heard of the disinformation campaign against the crop circle community.
I mean, but that's a thing that keeps popping up, right? Like,
yes,
especially now that there's been like soft disclosure where you find out that like all of the things that they, previously had said was bullshit and they made people out to be crazy. They're like, oh no, that was like 100% real.
JK.
Sorry. That's so fascinating because I do remember seeing a thing about how that there were certain crops that they wouldn't be broken, that they wouldn't be, that it was
Yes.
like, how do you do that? And I want to say that I'd read something of like, if you do it by hand, but then it wouldn't be possible to do that like overnight.
Yeah.
Like in the time frame that it was like not there and then appeared, that's just not a thing that would be possible to do.
And then are you like crawling around on your hands and knees like the whole time, bent over for hours and hours, pushing all these crops down? Like,
right. And you would need hundreds of people to do that in this period of time. People would notice.
You would leave footprints or something. Like,
like they'd be like, what's with those hundreds of people on their hands and knees in the crops?
what you guys doing? What you doing over there?
Yeah, I did not know about the radiation. That's fucking fascinating.
Crazy. And the people's hands, like visibly showing differences,
yeah.
the woman's thyroid, like all of it's real weird. And I had no idea when I started the story about the Lundberg Mirage Men.
Yeah, the tie-in. Yeah.
So crazy.
It's noteworthy.
It's noteworthy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought it was all bullshit. And now I kind of don't know what to think. That kind of fucked me up.
Yeah. I love that so much. It's definitely going to like stick with me this week.
Right?
Mm-hmm. The fuck?
What the fuck? I told you, it like kind of fucked my brain.
Yeah, obviously. Because it's been so widely accepted that this is just, it's a hoax. And you're like, oh, okay.
But like there's so many details. And like some of the designs are so crazy and so pristine.
Intricate.
Like if somebody did it, like kudos to you.
100%. You have lots of time.
Yeah, that was also another thing I read though. It's like if you did do it, why wouldn't you want to come forward at least after a while and be like, hey, by the way, like that was me.
This is my handiwork.
Impressive? Like, yeah, I would brag about that. There's no way I'd be able to keep my mouth shut about that. Be like, yeah, I did that.
100%.
Anyway, believe what you want to believe. If you want to believe it was some opium den wallabies, like, not
Thank you so much for that, though. Fuck.
Of course. Now, are we ready to get into some traumatizing true crime?
Yeah. I did go rogue this week.
Yes. I love when you go rogue.
Thank you. I don't know. It's traumatizing. I don't know. It's crazy.
It's something.
And it's something. I guess quick trigger warning. There's mentions of suicide in this, but let's get to it. Sources: Mr. Balin podcast, That Spooky Podcast, blog.payd.com, realcroatia.com, lingamontenegra.me, Croatian Medical Journal, researchgate.net, Wikipedia, ncbi.mln.nih.gov, which is the National Center for Biotechnology Information, acsh.org, which is the American Council of Science and Health, the Scary Interesting YouTube channel, the Fascinating Horror YouTube channel, and a source that I will withhold till the end. All the sources.
Oh, shit.
Oh my God.
What is going on?
Girl, what is going on indeed? Let's get into it. So, off the coast of Croatia, in the Adriatic Sea, lies the beautiful island of Sholta. Surrounded by relatively warm, bright turquoise water, it would be easy to mistake the tiny Mediterranean isle for tropical paradise. Its coves, rich with sea life, shallow shipwrecks, and an extensive cave system have unsurprisingly made this Mediterranean island a popular scuba diving destination. However, there is one area of the idyllic waters that the locals will tell you to avoid at all costs: Poganica Bay. They believe it to be an evil and deadly place. In fact, it's in its name. In Croatian, the word pogan, from which Poganica is derived, means pagan or heathen, dirty and filthy, wicked and evil. In the Croatian yep.
Not gonna be my vacation locale. No.
You would think. Also, like, if a place is named something like this and the locals are like, nah, girl, don't go there. I'm like, heard.
Yeah.
I will not go there. Say no more.
This is Devil's Den all over again. Like, I'm good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the Croatian oral tradition, Poganica refers to Herodias, the wife of King Herod Antipas. So, quick little biblical lesson that you probably know, but I love this kind of shit. So, if you wouldn't mind indulging me for a minute. So, John the Baptist and King Herod were homies. They were on good terms, but when King Herod decided to divorce his wife and marry his own brother's wife, Herodias, John the Baptist was like, bro, bad form. What the fuck are you doing? And
Not cool.
And so the Catholic saint strongly and publicly opposed the marriage. But Herod was like, fuck you, I'm king, I do what I want. During Herod's birthday celebration, Herodias' daughter from her first marriage and Herod's current stepdaughter, and technically his niece, Salome.
Oh, this is already so confusing. What this family tree is the nightmare.
The Bible's like that, girl.
Yeah.
So his current stepdaughter and niece, Salome, although in the Croatian folklore her name is Erudica, seductively danced before the king, and Herod was so turned on by it that he told her he'd give her anything she wanted, even up to half of his kingdom. And when Salome/Erudica consulted her mother as to what she should ask for, Herodias told her that she should ask for the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter, and King Herod granted her wish. In Croatian oral tradition, Herodias and her daughter turned into demonic creatures. So Croatians refer to Herodias as Poganica, aka she's a demonic creature who will have you killed.
Okay, cute.
Yep. Yep.
Why did they want his head?
They were just like, fuck you. Like, she was like, fuck you. Like, you're opposing this fucking marriage. Like, shut the fuck up. But also, like, just be like, John, I don't fuck with you. Like, get him banished or some shit.
Make him leave. Like,
gross overreaction.
Yeah.
You know, also, like, not just at this time, but for a very long period of time, the saints just kind of had to die in very horrific ways. Their martyrdom had to be very over the top to kind of like add to their love of Christ. Although it doesn't seem that this is related to being like, Jesus is cool and they're like, ah, fuck you. But yeah, either way, gross overreaction. Just don't fuck with people. Just be like, fuck you. But that's not how these people played it. So there's a small inlet on the Croatian island of Šolta that is named Poganica Bay. And while on its surface, Poganica Bay is a beautiful, calm, and picturesque beach, it has a sinister reputation. The area is steeped in maritime lore with legends of frightening pirates and hideous sea monsters that are enough to scare the locals away. But beneath the bay's idyllic crystal waters is a dangerous underwater cave system that the locals strongly advise visitors to use extreme caution while exploring because of the many potential dangers that lie within. They're like, stay the fuck away from there. It's evil and deadly. Like, it's literally
it's so
in the
bad.
goddamn fucking name.
Oh my God.
But of course, the Poganica Bay Cave has become a very popular destination for thrill-seeking divers. To steal a line from Cameron English's article in the American Council of Science and Health, who said, quote, "There are people in this world who voluntarily swim into underwater caves, apparently bored with the unlimited supply of breathable air and abundant sunlight God kindly graced us with. These thrill seekers spend their free time diving deep underwater, sometimes hundreds of feet down, so that they can navigate treacherous rock formations with glorified flashlights and limited air supplies." End quote. Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself, Cameron. Thank you. And it just so happened that Miroslav Kuklis was one of these people. Originally from Germany, Miroslav became a citizen of the Czech Republic, where the 31-year-old worked as a cook and took up diving as a hobby. While he did have dive training and diving experience, it was fairly basic. In September of 2002, Miroslav and a few of his friends went on a vacation to the Croatian island. Apparently, September is the perfect time to visit the Adriatic coast, as the scorching heat of July and August has dissipated, making it more comfortable to enjoy the outdoors. According to Croatia's tourism website, another reason to go to Šolta in September is because, quote, the Adriatic Sea gets to be really warm, up to 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit, end quote. Girl?
Still too cold for me.
I'm keeping from Miami Beach. That's fucking cold. Bath,
Yeah.
water only, please, and thank you. Not only that, during the month of September, the sun sets around 7:30 p.m. There's an average of 12 hours of light and 8 hours of daylight every day. On the evening of Tuesday, September 10th, 2002, the group of 5 friends boarded a tourist boat named Domino, which amazing, and headed to Pogonitsa Bay for an underwater adventure to explore its notorious waters. When it came to diving, the party had various levels of experience. Some in the party had basically no experience at all, while Miroslav was among the more experienced divers in the group. However, that being said, again, Miroslav's training was fairly basic, so the group was accompanied by 2 dive instructors. While the rest of his friends prepared dinner aboard the Domino, Miroslav went into the water for a preliminary solo dive. During his exploration of the area, he noticed the entrance to a cave system along the seafloor. So, just a quick note, I don't dive or do any of that, in case that wasn't super abundantly clear. I'm not what you'd call outdoorsy. And all of the measurements in my research are listed in meters, but I'm a dumb American and I have no idea what that is. So in this retelling, I've converted all of the meters to feet. So sorry, or you're welcome. When he returned to the boat, Miroslav reported his findings. Apparently, none of the other divers in the group knew about this underwater cave, so the men discussed their options. Some in the group were curious and interested in checking it out, while others weren't. The entrance Miroslav had found was a funnel shape that was only 6.5 feet wide, leading some of the men to believe that it probably wasn't a cave at all, but just a shallow pit. After the men had had dinner and drinks,
No.
the captain of the Domino took a nap, and at 9 p.m., 2 pairs of divers entered the water, each consisting of 1 dive instructor and 1 less experienced diver, and set off to explore the cave. So you might be like, diving at night, major no-no, but because of its clear waters, scuba diving takes place at all hours around the island of Shulta, especially in September, where there's 12 hours of light a day. But important to note, the vast majority of scuba diving on the island takes place in little coves that are not very deep, where you can experience the local fish and marine life up close. So it's very safe and controlled as much as the sea can be. Because, also, like, when you're in the waters, like, you're in their fucking territory.
Yeah.
Like a month or so ago, someone came into my bar and they were wearing this t-shirt it's like a surfing company called Cove. And the back of the shirt was this ship that was being engulfed by a huge kraken. And it says, respect the sea. And I was like, absolutely. So did I find myself a shirt and buy it? Yes, because respect the fucking sea. That's their fucking territory. And we don't know shit about what's going on there at all.
Yes. And you are a drop in the bucket. Like, that is so vast.
And we don't know anything. We know nothing.
No.
People are like, space, fuck space. What's happening in our ocean? We don't know shit about what's happening in our oceans. And they're here.
Right? Those are the aliens down there. Have you seen deep sea fish? No.
Girl.
Get out of here.
So everyone leaves to go explore this cave, but Miroslav opts out, choosing to stay behind on the boat with the captain and 2 other crew members. As I previously mentioned, it seemed like no one on this trip, including the dive instructors, knew about this cave, because if they did, they would have known that this was an extremely challenging cave system for experienced divers only. And even then, don't fucking go there. Just don't go. It's in the goddamn name. Don't go there.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Oh no. I'm like getting claustrophobic just thinking about it. Like, I already hate those.
It's gonna probably get a little bit more severe.
Oh, I know.
Again, the entrance to the Pogonitsa Bay cave is along the seafloor. So to enter the cave, you have to swim upside down, head first, through its mouth, which is only 6.5 feet wide. The cave system is made up of 2 main chambers, the shallow gallery and the deep gallery. To access these, divers would have to swim down a long and narrow chimney and navigate a labyrinth of tight, twisting corridors. Then, at around 49 feet, there's a split in the passageway that separates the cave into 2 galleries. But it's not the type of thing where there's like a clear fork in the path. Like if you go left, it's a shallow gallery, and if you go right, it's the deep gallery. In the graphic of the Puganitsa Bay cave system, you see this like long chimney that if you go slightly to the right, you end up in the shallow gallery. But if you keep going down, you end up in the deep gallery. And so here's the thing, the way that this graphic is drawn, that you can kind of see in kind of every article that they talk about this case in, it gives the illusion that each of these galleries are just like one big open room. But both the shallow and deep galleries contain a maze of tunnels that snake their way through the chambers, making it very easy to get lost. And the corridors between the shallow gallery and the deep gallery were complex and confusing, making it extremely difficult to find the exit once inside the caves.
Oh, no.
If all of this didn't make this Puganitsa Bay cave dangerous enough, the cave's interiors were lined with a very fine silt, which is pretty standard with caves.
God.
You already know where this is all going.
Yeah. You have no visibility as soon as you start up.
Uh-huh. So divers had to be really careful not to disturb the silt, as any movement in the sediment would reduce the visibility to zero almost immediately. Even with a high-power flashlight, the way that the particles scatter the light, it basically creates a light bounce that reflects light right back to you, making it difficult for divers to see even their hands 1 foot in front of their face. And the thing is, given that the passageways in the cave system are really narrow, it was extraordinarily difficult to not kick up silt with like your flippers.
Yeah.
And this creates like almost like a watery fog where you're completely blinded, so you can't see where you're going and you have no sense of direction. You're completely disoriented. So it's really easy to get turned around and think that you're going one way when really you're going another. And because this is an underwater cave, they're not like these like smooth open tunnels. They're jagged. So every dip in a corridor could look like a pathway out. But since the Puganitsa Bay cave system is an intricate maze of narrow winding tunnels, just because you found a pathway doesn't mean it's the pathway out. So while you may think you're swimming towards the exit, you could actually be swimming deeper into one of these galleries.
This is
terrifying and dangerous as fuck.
Yes. Like, as someone who's been scuba diving before, like, I'm having like a visceral reaction to hearing this.
I kind of am too.
Awful. Yeah. Oh my God.
Things you will never find me doing for 100, Alex. Thank you.
No. I want to be in the cove with the cute fish.
Yes.
With open area. Yes, please.
And like they literally have like really shallow shipwrecks that you could explore. It's almost like coral reef diving. Like I'm like, go there. Like that's fucking cool.
No. Oh my God.
So the 2 pairs of divers who went out looking for the cave found it and descended a short way into the chimney. However, upon realizing just how extensive the system was, they immediately returned to the surface, agreeing that they weren't equipped to explore a cave that deep or complex. So the group opted to just enjoy a leisurely night dive among the local marine life. When they returned to the boat at 10:30 p.m., Miroslav was nowhere to be found. Apparently, FOMO had gotten the better of him because at 9:15 p.m., Miroslav went back into the water and slowly made his descent 29.5 feet below the water's surface to the cave's entrance to join his friends, not knowing that they had abandoned the cave dive.
Stop it. You're always supposed to have a buddy.
Girl! And it's nighttime!
No. I've never had a case of FOMO that bad. Like, I don't give a fuck. It's fine.
Girl.
I'll just drink on the boat. I'm good.
Or I could just be like, I'm just going to go swimming. Like, around. Like, this is cute. Yeah. And then I'll just go on the boat.
Oh, no. Well, he's dead, obviously.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry.
So initially, no one really panicked because they were like, well, maybe he's just out exploring the bay. Either way, at 10:46 p.m., a dive instructor and one of the more experienced divers went back into the water to look for him. Using a safety line, the pair descended into the cave as far as they dared and used flashlights to search for the Czech citizen. But after almost an hour of searching, the 2 divers returned to the Domino without having located Miroslav.
He belongs to the demon now, Monique. I don't know what to tell you.
So the group understandably started to panic, and they worried that Miroslav, a not super experienced diver who was diving at night, presumably alone, had gotten lost in this intricate cave system and couldn't find his way out. It was 11:41 at this point, and Miroslav had gone out for his dive at 9:15 p.m. His tank only had about an hour's worth of oxygen in it, meaning that if he was still underwater, unless he found a pocket of air somewhere in the cave, he'd be completely fucked because he would have assuredly run out of air. So at 12:15 a.m., the group placed a frantic phone call to the local police in the nearby city of Split and explained the whole situation. But because it was past midnight, the police told them that they wouldn't be able to send out any rescue divers until daybreak, which wasn't for another 8 hours.
You have police curfew? Like what? For yourselves? For the police? What's happening?
And it's like, do you not understand? He's underwater. Like, he doesn't have 8 hours.
They're probably just like, he's gone, man. Like, we're not going to rush around trying to find this guy. Like, it's too late. That's insane, though.
Girl. So the group of men spent a sleepless night anchored in the Pukanitsa Bay above the entrance of the cave, restlessly waiting for the rescue team to arrive. At around 8 a.m., 2 police divers finally got there. Also, just want to reiterate that Miroslav was last seen at 9:15 p.m. the night before, so 11 hours before the police could be bothered to grace us with their presence. And if that wasn't bad enough, apparently the Split Police Department sent over the D team for this rescue mission because the 2 rescue divers were so ill-prepared for this search and brought such limited equipment that the people on the boat had to lend the police divers their own equipment for this rescue dive.
What?
Girl, I cannot.
Do your job. What's wrong with you?
A lot. The 2 police divers went into the water to look for Miroslav, and they were down there for a significant amount of time, while the men aboard the Domino anxiously waited on the surface for any sign of their friend. Eventually, only one of the police divers resurfaced, and he was clearly in distress, suffering from the effects of decompression sickness, also known as the bends. For those who don't know, the bends occurs when there's a sudden drop in surrounding pressure. While it's most commonly linked to scuba diving, it can also affect astronauts and people traveling in high altitude or unpressurized aircrafts. During a scuba dive, your body absorbs nitrogen from the air you breathe. The deeper you go and the greater the water pressure, the more you take in. Normally, this nitrogen is released with no effect as you slowly ascend from your dive, because you've given your body enough time to adapt to the decrease in water pressure. But if you ascend too quickly, the dissolved nitrogen in your body forms harmful bubbles in your bloodstream and tissues due to the rapid decrease in pressure. People who have experienced this say it is incredibly painful and have said that it feels like something is boring into your bones, which I can't even imagine.
No.
The symptoms of decompression sickness can range from joint pain and skin rashes to more severe issues like neurological problems, difficulty breathing, and even paralysis and death if not treated properly. So immediate medical attention is crucial for effective treatment and recovery. The best way to prevent decompression sickness or the bends is to slowly ascend towards the surface, adding decompression stops to give your body time to adapt. So like you swim up and you wait a little bit, and then you swim a little bit and you wait a little bit. And like that's how you're supposed to do your ascent back to the surface.
Yep.
So we find out that this rescue diver and his partner went down into the cave to look for Miroslav, and they couldn't find him. And they realized that they were running out of air. So they started making their ascent out of the cave, but they got lost. According to the divers who know the cave system well, when ascending from the deep gallery, the entrance to the shallow gallery looks like the exit funnel of the cave system, even in good visibility.
Oh, cool. Cool. That's super helpful.
Yep.
Amazing.
Thanks for that.
I'll just go die in the cave now. Thanks.
Yeah. So in poor visibility, like in a silted out cave, the mistake is even easier to make. And it appears that our rescue diver made that error, but managed to find his way out again. Dangerously low on air, the rescue diver quickly ascended to the surface without making the necessary decompression stops, therefore developing a severe case of decompression sickness. He was taken back to shore, where he was rushed to the hospital. His colleague, however, never emerged. So now there are 2 people who are believed to be trapped in this underwater cave.
Okay. It's going to sound callous.
Yep.
We have to stop sending people down to the cave. Like, we just need to stop. We're 2 for 2 on this one. Like, the cave is winning.
It's
a wrap.
The demon creature cave.
It's a wrap. No. What, are you going to send more people down here? To what? Rescue them? There's no rescue.
Girl, okay. So here's the thing. As the hours wore on, the 2 missing men's chances of survival grew dimmer as their tanks had completely run out of oxygen by this point. However, there were various sections of the cave where tiny fragments of light filtered through into the tunnels, meaning that it was possible that there was an air pocket somewhere in the underwater cave, and that if Miroslav and the other rescue diver had found it, they could still be alive.
If either of these guys are alive, I'm going to be shocked. Gobsmacked. Straight gobsmacked, Monique.
So, a new team of rescue divers were called to the scene.
Hopefully the A-team.
And it seems like this time they understood the assignment, as
okay,
they were much better trained and equipped and prepared for this rescue mission. But they didn't arrive till the following fucking day.
What is up with the rescue team schedule? Like, no nights and weekends?
It's 5:01. I am clocked out, girl.
Like, are you for real right now, bro?
I don't get overtime.
Okay.
So I'm really sorry. Could you just have your like cave diving emergency like during business hours only, please and thank you? Meaning that if Miroslav had managed to find an air pocket and was indeed still alive, he would have spent over 24 hours in this underwater cave system. When this new team of rescue divers entered the cave, they went into the shallow gallery first. And at a depth of 87 feet, that's where they made their first grim discovery. The rescue divers found the body of the missing police officer. It seems that on his ascent, he lost hold of the safety line he and his partner had secured to the entrance of the cave and became lost and disoriented. Thinking that he was nearing the exit of the intricate underwater cavern, the doomed officer likely mistook the entrance of the shallow gallery for the exit and dropped his line and disappeared deeper into the cave when he tragically ran out of air. The rescue team searched the rest of the shallow gallery for Miroslav, but after a thorough search, the 31-year-old cook was nowhere to be found. And although they're racing against the clock with the hope that Miroslav will be found alive, the rescuers have to move very slowly so as not to disturb the sediment and fuck their search and rescue operation. So the team made their way over to the deep gallery. And after spending some time searching the deep gallery, the team made their second grim discovery. At the bottom of the deep gallery, 177 feet down, they finally found the body of Miroslav Kuklis. While he was still in his full diving gear, he wasn't wearing his diving mask and his regulator was out of his mouth. So it seemed like Miroslav got trapped in the cave and, unable to find his way out, drowned. But as the team approached his body, they made a third chilling discovery when they saw that there was a knife protruding from the victim's chest.
Stop it.
What had initially appeared to be a drowning now looked like Miroslav had in fact been murdered. So,
stop.
This rescue mission, turned recovery mission, was quickly turning into a potential homicide investigation. Meaning that the crime scene was the fucking Adriatic Sea, which good fucking luck with that. And to make matters worse, the rescue divers removed Miroslav's gear from his body before returning him to the surface, which I'm assuming they did to make it easier to transport him through the cave without like his flippers, so that they, that he couldn't accidentally like disturb the silt.
Okay.
But while they were removing his gear, they accidentally removed the knife from his chest which they didn't realize until they got his body onto the boat. And they saw that the knife was no longer in his fucking chest. And not only that, his dive computer had fallen off during his ascent, aka the two biggest pieces of evidence in this investigation were at the bottom of like the most fucking deadly cave in the Adriatic Sea. What the fuck, guys?
Even the A team is the D team. What is
happening? Girl!
Jesus Christ.
The team was eventually able to recover the knife and dive computer without any further casualties, which is a fucking miracle in and of itself. In the meantime, investigators searched the boat Miroslav and his friends had been on, and they came across a small reddish stain on the boat's deck, which was swabbed and sent off for forensic analysis. Blood samples were taken from everyone who had been on the boat, and several knives that had been found on the vessel were collected and submitted into evidence. Suspicion immediately fell on Miroslav's friends and fellow divers. All the diving equipment and diving computers from all of the members of the party were collected for forensic investigation, and the group of men were taken down to the police station where they were interrogated. All members of the group consented to a polygraph test. So the boat carrying the crew and Miroslav's friends were already back on shore when Miroslav's body was found. So prior to taking the lie detector test, they had not been made aware that their missing diving companion's body had been recovered. All of the men passed the polygraph test, except for two. It had appeared to be the same two men who were on the boat with Miroslav when everyone else had gone on their dive. Police had not told the men about the red stains found on the boat or the knife found in the 31-year-old victim's chest. Yet, when the words blood and knife were mentioned, the polygraph showed that those two crew members had very intense reactions. So, the two men were taken into custody, but no formal charges were made just yet because they didn't have enough evidence to, charge them. The rest of the crew was released but forbidden from leaving the country. Investigators looked into the dead man's history and lifestyle. Did he have any enemies, or was there anything in his life that could suggest that someone would want to murder him? But the more they investigated, the more they came up empty-handed. They had no motive as to why anybody would want to murder the tourist. When Miroslav's body was autopsied, the 31-year-old was found to be in good physical condition prior to his death. He had a stab wound on the left side of his chest between his nipple and his sternum that was 4.3 inches deep and had punctured his aorta. His lungs were found to have had water in them, indicating that he had breathed in water sometime around the time of his death, and they believed he died within 2 minutes or less after being stabbed. It was discovered that he had alcohol in his system. His blood alcohol level was 0.114. For reference, the legal limit for driving is typically 0.08. Witnesses confirmed that Miroslav had consumed alcohol during dinner, but not an excessive amount. Either way, obviously, alcohol impairs your judgment. So, police theorized that maybe Miroslav got into a fight with one or more of the people on the boat for some unknown reason. And in the scuffle, Miroslav got stabbed and subsequently thrown off of the boat into the water while he was still alive, thus explaining the signs of drowning around the same time he was stabbed. However, if Miroslav had been stabbed in the boat, then thrown overboard into the sea and into the bottom of the deep gallery of the Pukanitsa Bay cave, he should have had more injuries. For one, he had no defensive wounds on his body, and there were no defects to his suit that would suggest that a fight had ensued. And he didn't have any damage to his middle ear. Divers usually clear their ears and sinuses during a dive to avoid rupturing their eardrums because of the sudden change in pressure. If Miroslav's body had been dumped into the sea and quickly sank to the bottom of the cave, his middle ear would have certainly been damaged. But there wasn't, suggesting that he reached the deep gallery in a controlled manner. Also, the entrance of the cave isn't that big, so it's a bit of a reach to suggest that he was thrown into the mouth of the cave and just tumbled all the way down to the bottom. So this theory was kind of ruled out. Miroslav's diving equipment was checked and found to be in good working order, ruling out faulty equipment as a potential cause of death. Everyone's dive computers, including the one found on the victim, were also tested and found to be in perfect working order, with no signs of being tampered with. So, These dive computers create dive profiles that track the beginning of the dive, the maximum depth, the total decompression time, total ascent time, and total dive time. These can be used to create a graphical representation of the dive. And once the data is stored, it cannot be deleted or changed, therefore ensuring its accuracy. So police used the data stored on Miroslav's dive computer to see if they could piece together a timeline of the Czech citizen's final dive. On Tuesday, September 10th, Miroslav Kuklis got into the water at 9:15 p.m. He entered the cave and immediately dove straight down to the depth of 165 feet, which would suggest he entered the deep gallery. Almost immediately upon hitting this depth, Miroslav went directly back up, possibly to exit the cave. He went back up to the chamber's roof, then into the corridor leading out. He reached the junction and then made a crucial mistake. Instead of going towards the exit tunnel, he turned and went into the shallow gallery, likely mistaking the entrance of the shallow gallery for the exit. Because remember, they both looked similar. That divers familiar with this cave said that it was an easy mistake to make. And it's believed that the police diver may have also made the same error after letting go of his safety line, believing that he was nearing the exit. The infograph from Miroslav's dive computer bounces up and down between the maximum depth of the shallow gallery and the ceiling of the shallow gallery, indicating that he was swimming around within its labyrinth of tunnels, probably panicking, probably kicking up silts, further reducing his visibility in the pitch black cave, knowing he was lost and looking for the way out. After 35 minutes of searching for the exit, he finally finds the exit to the corridor. But instead of taking the exit out of the cave, he makes the same mistake again and goes deeper into the deep gallery. Miroslav's air tank had an hour's worth of oxygen when he started his dive. So at this point, he's over 150 feet down in the deep gallery and he's lost. And he has approximately only 25 minutes of air left to make it to the surface, possibly less because when you get stressed out, you inhale more often, further cutting into your oxygen supply. And that supply has to include some decompression stops along the way so as to avoid getting severe decompression sickness. Divers who perish in caves commonly underestimate the amount of air they need to complete their dive. They swim too deep into the cave only to realize they don't have enough air to make it to the surface. And I saw that one of the 5 golden rules of scuba diving or cave diving is the rule of thirds, where it's like factor out a third of the air to get to where you're going, a third for the dive, and then a third to come back.
Yep.
And apparently people are not great at doing this. Upon entering the deep gallery, the lost diver stopped moving for 5 minutes, perhaps resting or taking advantage of an air bubble at the top of the cave. Then, according to the graph, Miroslav abruptly lost buoyancy and dropped to the bottom of the gallery. And it was determined that this was when Miroslav was stabbed in the chest. The police took this chain of events into consideration and went about analyzing the data on the rest of the party's dive computers, with the hopes that the data on at least one of the other dive profiles would place them at the same time and place as Miroslav when he was stabbed, thus revealing the killer.
What is this story?
Girl! I fucking know.
I was not prepared.
No! But when they looked and compared the data on all the dive computers, they found that none of the other divers were anywhere near Miroslav when he was stabbed.
Stop it.
They were all too high up to the surface, and it would have been physically impossible for someone to dive down to 165 feet, stab the Czech citizen, and then make it back to the boat by 10:30 without severe decompression sickness. And the only person who was reported as having the bends was the one police rescue diver who barely made it out alive. Then it was suggested that maybe one of the divers from the boat who went looking for him shortly after he went missing found Miroslav in the deep gallery, and the 31-year-old, delirious and almost out of air, maybe could have panicked and pulled out his knife and attacked him, and that the rescuer stabbed Miroslav in defense. Except that also was not possible, since according to the dive computer, the rescue dive started at 10:46 p.m., roughly 45 minutes after Miroslav's dive computer had flatlined at the bottom of the deep gallery. So he was already dead by the time the two friends set out to search for him. Not only that, they hadn't dived deeper than 29 feet. Then there was also this like wild ass theory proposition that the killer could have stabbed Miroslav on the boat, taken off his dive computer and tied it to a line with a weight and brought it to the entrance of the cave and then just like dropped it down and simply like pulled it up and down to make it look like Miroslav was like alive and swimming in the cave system when
That's a
really he had
lot.
been, yeah, when he'd been dead like the whole time on the boat, and that the data on the dive computer would like cover their tracks and that they could just place his body at the bottom of the deep gallery whenever they wanted. But this was ruled out because one, the way the cave is shaped, it's highly unlikely that the depths recorded by the dive computer could have been achieved without it catching on a rock or ledge. Two, it's stupid. Three,
Yes. This is the pole vaulting situation all over again.
yes.
What? No.
Yes.
Like, absolutely not.
Yes, this is the pole vaulting scenario in my story. And three, and I'm not making a joke at all, but there's just a lot more easier ways to kill someone underwater and make it look like an accident
Yeah.
than whatever the fuck this stupid, complicated scenario posits. While the police were initially convinced that Miroslav had been murdered by one of his friends as the investigation wore on and the data from the dive computer was analyzed, this possibility became less and less likely. No one was remotely near him. He was completely by himself. Occam's razor suggests that the simplest explanation is usually the best one. And the only scenario that makes sense with all of the evidence we have is that Miroslav Kuklis stabbed himself. The systemic elimination of possible murder scenarios only left that one remaining possibility. Croatian military divers who consulted with police, however, initially rejected this hypothesis, saying that regardless of the situation they found themselves in, that they would do everything they could to survive. But Miroslav was not a military diver. He was not a professional diver or even a highly experienced diver. He was a 31-year-old cook who took up diving as a hobby and was on vacation with his friends. He had gotten lost and was alone and was probably terrified at the prospect of a painful death by drowning. A later analysis of his air tank showed that despite him having an hour's worth of air supply, his air ran out at 9:59 p.m., 44 minutes into his dive. And he's in an underwater cave at least 130 feet below the surface. So it's not like he could just hold his breath and swim up to the top. He knew he was completely fucked. And so, faced with the certainty of a horrific drowning death and seemingly wanting a quicker and more painless end, Miroslav Kuklis made the grim decision to stab himself in the heart with his diving knife. In an extra sad detail, remember that the autopsy said that there was water in his lungs, so Miroslav did end up taking in water, the thing that it appears he was looking to avoid. And while this may seem extreme, there are many documented cases where victims will choose suicide over a perceived worse way of dying. You saw it in 9/11, where people were literally jumping out of buildings to avoid being burned alive. It is, however, important to note that it is unclear how much alcohol played a role in impairing Miroslav's judgment or how much he was affected by nitrogen narcosis in his final moments. Nitrogen narcosis, also known as the rapture of the deep or the martini effect, is a physiological effect experienced by divers at increased depths, where breathing compressed nitrogen can cause symptoms similar to alcohol intoxication. As for the results of the ominous red stain found on the boat's deck, they concluded that it was just red paint, further confirming that there had been no foul play, only a terrible tragedy. The forensic team ultimately concluded that if it had been murder, there would have been easier ways to kill someone during a dive. Miroslav Kuklis's death was ruled a suicide, his friends were released from custody, and no charges were ever made against them, and the investigation into the death of Miroslav Kuklis was closed indefinitely. The Puganica Bay Cave, on the other hand, is still accessible. And despite a plaque being installed by its entrance shortly after these deaths, warning anyone who might consider exploring the caverns beneath as to just how dangerous they could be, Puganica Bay remains a popular diving spot, with its deadly reputation making it even more appealing to some thrill seekers. Unfortunately, Miroslav Kuklis and the rescue diver were not the last victims of the demonic cave. In 2015, 2 more divers lost their lives while exploring the cave system, again after getting lost between the two galleries and running out of air. And while I haven't luckily been able to find that there have been any more fatalities in this cave, hopefully those two will be the last. And that was the story of the deaths of Miroslav Kuklis and one of the men who was sent to rescue him from the Puganitsa Bay cave.
Wild.
And the other source that I used was cavedivingaccident.com.
Stay away from the fucking demon cave.
Girl, just stay away, girl. If they, just like how there's that adage of like when someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yes.
Same with caves.
Yes.
If you're like, girl, I'm a demon cave, you're like, are you really? Or are you just like a bad boy with like a heart of gold?
I can change him. I can change the cave. No, you can't. You're going to die in the cave.
You're going to die.
Oh my God. That's so crazy. I'm not going to lie. I did have the moment when you first told me that episode. I was like, did he stab himself? Because there's so much work to murder somebody. It seems so unnecessary.
Yeah. I mean, people do murder people all the time, though.
Yeah.
And
I did a story about a guy who murdered his wife in like a scuba diving accident, quote unquote.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I will never die this way. I will never go cave diving. I mean, I have gone into an underwater cave when I went to Mexico last year, but that wasn't a scuba situation.
No.
But still, I was like, if I die here, I'm a dumb fuck. And I did this to myself.
Yeah.
Was a thought that ran through my mind when they're like, we're going to turn off the light and you can see just how fucking dark it is in here. And I was like, oh my fucking God, I'm going to die.
No, that's terrifying. They did that to us while we were in Carlsbad Caverns. And I like felt like a little moment of like hysteria coming up for a second. Because
100%.
It's so dark.
It's a darkness you just can't even comprehend.
Yes. There is literally zero light.
Nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if something fucks up, we have technical issues. Like you are literally blind trying to get out of a cave system you don't know. Like, no. It's so scary.
Yeah.
No, I like scuba diving. It's a lot of fun. Would not do this.
Mm-mm.
I would go in like where it was, like reef formations or something where it's like big openings. We can see where we're going. We can see the other side. Like big open caverns. Cool. No.
I'm not into this level of adventure.
No.
I don't need to be Indiana Jones. It's cool.
Yeah. Drowning's a rough way to die too. I get how you could just be like, you know what?
I'm not doing this.
It's a wrap. Like you have to accept your own death at some point in that situation. Like that's so scary.
I couldn't imagine anything about this.
No.
And then I couldn't imagine even like his friends being like, you went on a fucking vacay.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what the fuck? And then you're like, and then to find out like your friend is dead.
2, you're being suspected of murder.
Murdered. And we think it's you. You're like, what the fuck? I just wanted some margs and to look at some octopi. What the fuck?
That's it. Oh my God. No, that's fucking crazy, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for that story, though. I had not heard of it. I have a new fear.
Yeah.
I still feel claustrophobic. Like I feel like I want to like hold my press on my chest or something.
I'm a little in that also. And I'm not someone who's claustrophobic normally. But I can't like, this is so not a good time for me. Like I couldn't, I'd be like, no. Like when I went to Zach Bagans' nonsense fucking museum in Vegas, like 2 years ago, one of the rooms is like, there's this chapel and then you're supposed to like, they're like, oh, there's this little hole you can crawl into to see some bullshit about like an exercise. And I was like, I'm good, girl.
Yeah.
I'm good. I don't need to do that.
I'll watch you do it. You go for it. Tell me what's in there.
Yeah. What? Oh, there's some stained glass. Cool. Love it. Great. Don't care. I'm not doing this.
I'm comfortable. Especially like crawling in a hole, Zach Bagans. Swimming, okay, that's one thing. No.
If I'm doing that, that's because it's like my fucking life is depending on it. Or like my loved one's life is depending on it. That's it. Not just being like,
for funsies.
We had a couple VODs with dinner. You want to go and fuck around and find out? No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No.
That was so insane.
Yeah.
Fascinating, but tragic.
31.
Yes. And then the fact that like somebody else died trying to fucking save him, and it's just like, oh my God.
Oh my God. And just
leave the cave alone.
Leave it alone. It's a demon cave. It's a demon creature cave.
Literally. We didn't name it Happy Fun Time Cave. Like, it has a name that
Right.
tells you to stay the fuck away. Oh my God. Thank you so much for that. I love you so much.
I love you so much. Thank you so much for your story.
Of course.
And thank you guys so much. This is another fucking horror podcast. I'm Monique Sanchez.
And I'm Amy Tree.
You can find me on the gram at PinUpGirlMo.
You can find me at Lobotomy, and that's Lobot.Amy.
Guys, come see us in New Orleans.
Please.
It's going to be so much fun. It's the best way to start spooky season, October 3rd and 4th. You can find all that info at anotherfuckinghorrorpodcast.com, where you can get tickets to our live show, you get our merch, you get Patreon, all that fun shit. We would love to see you and just squish your faces or boop your nose. Just throwing that out there. Also, if you don't want to go on a plane or something and still want to support us, please rate, review, and subscribe to our show, because that gives us more visibility so that we can hopefully be doing this full time sooner rather than later, and then do more live shows where we could stop by your town and then you don't have to take a plane or a train, just an automobile, or even walking. I don't know. That was such a rant. I'm so sorry about that. It's been a day. But we love you so much. Thanks for being rad as fuck. As always, keep it cute.
Keep it creepy.
Bye.
Bye.